medicine itself is kind of nebulous.
My brain is just wired differently.
You're feeling symptoms that the tests aren't showing exist.
People need to hear your story.
Welcome to the Season 5 premiere of the Major Pain Podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Mercury. Can you believe it? Kicking off the 5th year of this show, we have a very special episode for you today. We'll be catching up with Joey, who originally appeared on the podcast to talk about hidradenitis suppurativa, or HS. He's since had an HS surgery that he's excited to tell us about, and some huge updates on his advocacy work. Then we'll be catching up with Colby, who originally appeared on the podcast to talk about somatic symptom disorder, along with a whole host of chronic illness and mental health diagnoses. Colby has another diagnosis to add to the list, and like Joey, also recently went through a surgery that they will tell us about. And lastly, we'll be catching up with Angela, the only person to ever appear on Major Pain whose doctor mistakenly pronounced them dead, which I'm still laughing about. She's coming back on the show today to also tell us about a new diagnosis. I have a recurring date in my calendar called the Major Pain Anniversary, which is, of course, the anniversary of the first episode of this show airing. And now that we are on, at least for the time being, a bi-weekly schedule, this episode this week was going to be the closest episode to the actual Major Pain Anniversary. That means that I never announced that last episode was going to be the Season 4 finale. I didn't even realize it at the time. Normally, when we're reaching the end of a season, I put out the call to see who has updates on their health journeys and wants to come back on the show. But we've had so many interviews at this point. I'm just kind of hearing from previous guests throughout the year at this point. These 3 people I'd been in touch with for a little while about coming back on the show to do updates, and then reached out when it was time to put this episode together. And I was so glad that all 3 of them could come on the show. I do want to give a content warning about our updates this week, particularly the one with Colby. Colby will tell us about some trauma that they experienced when they were younger involving sex trafficking. And it is deeply upsetting. It is a haunting story, but it is also such a powerful story. One that I am so grateful to Colby for sharing with us. It's another unbelievable story here on Major Pain. So while I do highly encourage you to listen, we will be discussing intense trauma and how that has impacted Colby's life. I'm sure that regular listeners will have noticed that I've been a little all over the place, having to slow down the release schedule of the podcast and looking for help in producing the show. I just have so much amazing stuff going on in my life right now. I just can't do it all. And I never thought I'd be in that position. It's a wonderful position to be in. I'm very grateful for it, but it is overwhelming. I'm trying to figure it out one day at a time. I have started working with Trisha and Casey on getting some help producing the show. It is in the back of my mind that I'd really like to go back up to producing the show weekly, if possible. I don't know if that's going to be possible, but it is something that I want for sure. The last thing that I want to do is stop making the show because I just love it so much. So I'm really, really working to make it possible to fit the production of this podcast into my extremely busy life these days. In large part because I don't think I'd have such a busy life if it weren't for this podcast. If it weren't for everything that I learned about chronic illness and self-advocacy, I don't know if I ever would have gotten the diagnosis of mast cell activation syndrome and small fiber neuropathy. I don't know if I ever would have gotten on medication that has made my body stable enough to go back to work full time and to be working to terminate my disability payments from the Social Security Administration. And these are words I can't believe I'm saying. Every time I talk about this, I can't believe these are the words coming out of my mouth. I'm so grateful. This was such a big year for me. I turned 40, I got married, my health has really bounced back. And as I just mentioned, back to work full time with jobs that I love. Both of my jobs right now, I just love them both so much. Of course, I'm still living the chronic illness lifestyle. That will always be a part of my life. But it's a different version of that lifestyle than I was living when I started producing this podcast. When this show started, I was stuck on the couch most of the time, most of the day, every day. And now here I am doing so many different things. And now that I have all this extra energy, I really want to continue to apply as much of that energy as possible to advocating for the chronic illness and the disability community. Nothing can change what I have lived through, the experience of having an undiagnosed chronic illness that was so intense that I was unable to work, I was barely able to leave the house. But I found so much meaning in life during that time, in large part from doing this podcast. And I continue to find so much meaning in doing this. What's driving me with this podcast these days is the sheer amount of people that I hear from that want to come on the show. I have so many recordings booked right now. This is actually the main reason that I'm hoping to someday go back to a weekly release schedule because I'm recording them faster than I'm releasing them at this point. My big hope is that I can hand off more and more of the production to other people so that I can really focus on doing the interviews, which is the part of this that brings me the absolute most joy. So it's a really exciting time for me. It's an exciting time for Major Pain, growing this into not just a community of listeners, but a community of people behind the scenes working on the show, which makes it such a great time to join the Patreon for Major Pain, because now it's being used a little bit differently. Instead of 100% of the financial resources coming in through Patreon going directly to me, it is now being spread amongst the people working on this podcast, namely Trisha Schmidt and Casey McKenzie. They're very, very cool people. I've really enjoyed getting to know them so far. So thank you so much to the people who are supporting the show on Patreon. You are what is making it possible for the show to continue. Extra special thank you to our Patreon producers, Steve Kavanaugh, Chris Fowler, Trish O'Brien, and Hipster Leia, for your extremely generous donations of $25 per month. The highest tier on Patreon. We have 3 tiers of support. The middle tier is the patron tier at $7 per month, and you can sign up for as little as $2 per month, the supporter tier. Everyone who signs up gains access to our monthly bonus episodes, usually with myself and my partner Andy, although recently we are doing some catch-up episodes because I'm still kind of piecing my life back together after leaving for a month on my epic honeymoon. So I recently put out an episode with Sunny, who's been on the bonus episode a couple times, has also been on this podcast discussing hypersomnia. And then I do have another catch-up episode planned. And then I think we'll be back on schedule as long as Andy and I can start recording again. The bonus episodes are so much fun. I really love recording those. I love being able to share them with our Patreon community. And we've also had a whole bunch of people join as free members on Patreon. It's a great way to be notified when new episodes of Major Pain are released. You can comment on episodes on Patreon, and I've also created a group chat for everyone on Patreon, paid members and free members alike. So if you want to connect to myself or other people who listen to this podcast, that group chat on Patreon is a great way to do so. And all you have to do is create a free membership on Patreon and follow Major Pain. Since this is the premiere of Season 5 of Major Pain, I just got done updating the opening montage of voices that you will hear over the opening song in every episode of Major Pain for Season 5. Speaking of Sunny, she is now the opening voice that you will hear all season long. Then you'll hear Michelle from her episode about dyscalculia, Miguel from his amazing episode about CFS recovery, and Sarah Fox from the Rough Edges podcast, who was on the episode that just came out on Major Pain discussing bipolar type 1. This is something I only do once a year, and it's always so interesting for me. I kind of dive back through the catalog of episodes that we've put out over the last year, looking for little clips that I can string together. I'm always surprised by the clips that I pull out. I never know where I'm going to go or what I'm going to do when I sit down to do that. It's kind of a daunting task because it's, I got to look back through a whole bunch of episodes from the past year and find little tiny clips that will work. And it always works out. I don't know how, but it worked out again this time. This is one of those small things, a little detail that I really like about creating the shows. Just having that slightly different intro to each season gives each season just a slightly different flavor. One of my favorite parts about hosting this podcast is the community building. I love hearing from listeners. Please feel free to reach out to me anytime, majorpainpodcast@gmail.com. You can also follow us on social media. We are on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, all at Major Pain Podcast. And if you want to support this show, there are some great ways to do so. Our ongoing partnership with Rare Patient Voice, where you can participate in research studies and surveys about your diagnosis and be paid for your time. You can sign up with any diagnosis at all. It does not need to be a rare disease. Head to rarepatientvoice.com/majorpainpodcast to sign up and support this podcast at the same time. We have an ongoing partnership with NeuroHealth. If you're trying to get in to see a neurologist and you're waiting for months and months and months, or you need support with any sort of headache or sleep issues, NeuroHealth could be the solution. This is an online clinic that provides you professional care without the wait. Head to neurohealth.co/majorpain to get a discount and support this podcast while you sign up. And of course, there's our Amazon shop. I've listed products and supplements that I use to manage my own chronic illness, or you can just start any shopping trip at our Amazon shop, move on to Amazon, shop for anything at all, and still be supporting this podcast. Head to amazon.com/shop/majorpainpodcast. I'm also excited to say that I've recorded some really great episodes of Major Pain that will be coming out over the next several weeks. We'll be covering several new illnesses, including visual snow syndrome, the vascular form of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Can you believe we have not talked about vascular EDS after all these years? And this week I recorded a really great conversation with Bonnie from Dream Big Wellness, a nonprofit that supports the mental health of people with chronic illness, disability, or going through cancer care. It's a really, really fantastic discussion. All three of these are just fantastic episodes that I'm so excited to share. So make sure you are subscribed to Major Pain. We now have a video version of the podcast available on YouTube and Spotify. Or if you're just an audio listener, you can find us on all the big podcast platforms. Your support of this show, your listenership, is the main reason that I love making this show. Building this community has been one of the great joys of my life. I'm so glad that you're here listening. Thank you so much for being a part of the Major Pain community. And we're going to jump into our catch-up episode, hearing from Joey, Colby, and Angela. The last thing I'll say before we do is that I am not a medical professional. Please do not take any medical action based off what you hear on this podcast without first consulting your doctor. Joey, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you, Jesse. I'm so happy to be back. It's always a pleasure seeing you.
Yeah, you too. I'm so excited to catch up today. You last appeared on the podcast on February 8th, 2023 in an episode called Living with Hidradenitis Suppurativa, and I still remember how to say that name. You had to teach me how to say that last time, which is a painful skin condition. And just give us a quick refresher. What is hidradenitis suppurativa?
Right. So HS is a chronic inflammatory skin condition that causes boil-like abscesses basically anywhere on the body except for the palms of your hand and the bottom of your feet. So you can form an HS boil-like abscess anywhere on your body. And these boil-like abscesses, they can be extremely painful. They tend to leak discharge. They have a foul odor to them. It's a chronic condition, so it's something that's lifelong with the person. And, it impacts a warrior's life in every aspect, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, because, it's just so debilitating at times. And, that's what HS is in short. It's just a chronic inflammatory, autoinflammatory condition.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember so vividly last time talking about the sort of spiritual journey that this has put you on, and the way that you've had to sort of clean up your life from top to bottom, your diet, your habits, and had to develop so much discipline to live with this disease. And it just really impressed me at the time. It's been a little over 2 years since we last had you on the podcast. So what has happened in the last 2 years? What is your update?
Right. A lot has changed. Let's start off health-wise. As far as where my HS is today, it's manageable thanks to, treatment, lifestyle changes, and support from my family and my community. I'm currently on a biologic that's helping to keep my HS under control. I've been on this biologic for about 8 or 9 months, so I've seen significant improvement to my HS. And also, I had surgery back in September of 2024, and that has also helped keep my HS well managed. I've noticed after surgery, so I had surgery done in my left armpit. They took out a good amount of my armpit. And I've noticed after surgery, the fatigue has decreased significantly. Prior to having surgery, I remember one of the huge symptoms for me was the fatigue that's associated with HS. And, I spoke to a couple of my doctor friends, and I was just curious to why was that the case? Why have my energy levels have been increased after having surgery? And he just simply said to me, Joe, it's just because a huge amount of that damaged tissue was removed. So now your body is not working so hard in overdrive to send good cells to that damaged part of your body. So you have a lot of good cells free up in your body now. So that's why you feel like there's a boost of energy. So surgery for me was life-changing. It did get a little bumpy. I just want to be transparent with people. I did end up losing a lot of blood, and I had to have a blood transfusion. So this isn't common, but this is part of my story. If you go on my Instagram page, I made a couple of reels traveling with the journey and stuff like that. And I just want to tell people, if they're thinking about having surgery, make sure you do your research and find a good HS surgeon. You can find a good HS surgeon on hsconnect.org. We have a dermatologist locator finder on there. And, surgery isn't it for everyone, but it gave me so much of my life back.
Wow. Yeah, that's fascinating. Right after we met and chatted last time, I got a new dermatologist, and I was talking to him about the podcast a little bit. And I mentioned, I just interviewed someone with hidradenitis suppurativa, and that was one of his specialties. It's one of the conditions that he deals with. And he was telling me about, doing surgery on patients who have these like tracts under their skin,
right?
Where it's like damaged tissue, and it's like a big pocket of it that needs to be removed. Is that what we're talking about here, like in your armpit?
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. So to me, my most problematic area was my left armpit. I have HS in my right armpit as well as in my groin area, and a little bit on my buttocks. And there was some boil-like abscesses on the back of my neck, but they healed up. So, but the left armpit was my most problematic area. So that's why I decided to go ahead with surgery and see how did I feel after recovery, if the surgery was a benefit to me or not. And like I said, I feel like it gave me my life back, because like it took away so much fatigue, and it just gives me so much energy to I'm able to do a lot more stuff and just live life freely without the constant worry of like a flare happening in that area and just taking me out for the day. And I don't have to worry about calling out of work so much. So it really has been life changing for me. So if any warriors out there listen to this and they're thinking about doing it, I just strongly encourage them. Make sure you do your research. Also, make sure you have a good support team, and know that healing isn't linear. It's going to take time. There was times during the recovery I was questioning if it was worth it, but fast forward a few months later, it was worth it for me. And I truly wish everyone the best results if they decide to go ahead with that. And even if they don't decide to go ahead with surgery journey, I just wish them all the best.
Yeah, this is so interesting because with HS, you're sort of always managing symptoms, and there's like a different variety of symptoms and a different severity of symptoms. So I'd imagine that a lot of people with HS who are aware of the surgery are questioning, at what point do I get surgery? How bad does this have to get, and in which area? And that must be a really difficult choice to make. So do you have any words of advice about, at what point should you consider surgery for HS?
Yeah, so that's a tough question. I think it really depends on the person, how much they say their life is debilitating. So that's a personal decision that individual would have to make along with themselves and their doctor. Like the reason that made me want to do surgery is because I was just tired of like feeling defeated, and I heard so many success stories of like how surgery can improve someone's life. And I'm like, well, why not? I'm way more educated about HS, and I have a support system, and I have a good knowledge of like what to expect. So that's what brought me to the decision of going ahead with the surgery. But yeah, it's definitely something an HS warrior has to know for sure, and they can only be the ones to make that decision along with their medical team. I think feeling comfortable knowing that the surgeon knows what he or she is talking about when it comes to having the surgery, because it's surgery. It's a scary thing, So it's a big step. So I can see why some people can be apprehensive towards it. But for me, it was life changing.
Yeah. And it might be a sort of a slippery slope for a certain individual if you have, severe HS in multiple different places.
Right.
I'm assuming that there's a different calculation and equation to be done there of like, wow, if I start doing surgery, when do I stop? It's so individualized. I'm so excited to hear that this had this sort of side effect of bringing your energy levels up. That's so interesting that, you're fighting something every day and it's like slowly growing all the time. I assume in the armpit region where it's like, I need to have surgery for it. It must have been a slow growing thing that eventually got to the point where it's like, wow, I need to do surgical intervention here. But your body's fighting it the whole time. And then when it's removed, your body's like, oh, finally, I can relax a little bit. This one spot, I can not have to fight this one spot anymore after it's healed up. And it sounds like that wasn't an expected result. That just sort of happened. And you're like looking back after surgery and thinking to yourself, wow, I didn't expect that. This is great.
Right. Absolutely. You hit the nail right on the head. Before surgery, and I thought when I was thinking about the recovery, I'm like, this is going to take so long because I'm a chronic illness warrior, right? After having the surgery and after experience the recovery and how fast I recovered, and I understand my body is not the same as everybody, so everyone won't be able to recover as quickly as I did. But I was so surprised and proud of my body, of how well I was able to recover as a chronic illness warrior. That blew me away. Like, wait, I'm chronically ill and I healed up this quickly. And I'm saying this to myself, and I shared my surgery journey, and I'm looking at the comments and they're saying, wow, it looks like it's healed up beautifully. And I was just really blown away with my body. So in other words, I know we tend to beat ourselves up as chronic illness warriors, but sometimes our bodies can surprise us for the better.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I've had that experience too, where you find, you've been sick forever, and then you find the one thing that your body really needs, and you give it to your body, and your body's like, hooray! and it just completely works differently than you expect it to. You heal faster, and your energy level rises, and you feel like a different person. And I love what you said about, healing is not linear. Nothing about chronic illness is linear. So it's so easy to fall into the trap of thinking that where you are now is where you will always be. And it's also so easy to fall into the trap of, I made a step and it made things harder, and now I have to recover, and now I feel worse and I'm so bummed. But then here you are post healing, and it's like, wow, now I feel better than I have in a really long time. And it feels like sometimes when you're not going on an uphill trajectory, it feels like that can never happen again. And leaving the possibility and the hope open to yourself that might happen, because it happens a lot. It's happened to me. It's happened to you. So it's definitely something that happens within chronic illness. It's really exciting. Okay, so the surgery, sounds like a huge win for you. What else has happened in the last couple of years?
Yeah, so the surgery was a big thing for me. So the surgery kind of kicked off more of continuation of my health journey, and I was able to get a few new diagnoses as well. So I discovered that I do live with sleep apnea, and that could be a comorbidity with HS as well. So I want to strongly encourage HS warriors, if they haven't yet, to participate in a sleep study and see if that, they may be living with OSA or the other form of sleep apnea, because finding that diagnosis, that has been life-changing for me as well. Like having surgery and then finding that out, and just being like ready to take on and participate in the sleep apnea. And I've seen a huge difference as far as like my attitude and not just being so like just over with it.
Wow. Yeah. Both of my parents have sleep apnea. That's why you stop breathing in the middle of the night, and they make a mask called a CPAP machine that you wear while you sleep, and it kind of pumps oxygen in and helps you breathe better while you sleep. Because when you're asleep, you don't know what you're doing, you don't know how you're breathing. So I've heard, from my parents that it can be so powerful to finally get this device that can help you sleep better. And then all of a sudden you realize, whoa, I wasn't getting good sleep for a really long time.
I said that within like the first few days of using my CPAP machine, I said, in the 36 years on this planet, I finally know what it feels like to be well rested.
Yes.
It's life-changing. Like, I'm thinking clearer. I don't get as irritable as anymore. And it's just, I strongly encourage people to, like, at bare minimum, get tested for sleep, because we undervalue how important sleep is, especially as a chronic illness warrior. Like, we can always feel like we never get enough rest. And sometimes the problem isn't what we think the problem actually is, and we have to do a little bit more tests and come to find out like the sleep apnea was a huge contributor to me feeling fatigue as well.
Wow. Yeah, I'm so excited that you figured that out. That's so cool.
Yeah, so a lot of great things been happening as well. Also, from the mental health aspect of HS, this year I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety, but that didn't come at a huge surprise to me because I know again, like depression and anxiety are another symptoms of an HS warrior. Also, depression runs in my family. So it was good to receive that diagnosis because now I said to myself, a lot of things make sense. And I've been starting therapy, and that has been another life-changing tool in my life to just be able to go to someone and just get guidance. Because the thing that I felt like I was missing in my life was guidance. I really didn't feel like I had that male figure I can go to and just like let me know if this is something that I'm doing correctly, or I may need to shift my direction or shift my perspective. And it's just been life changing. And that's another thing I strongly encourage people to do, like, especially men. You know, men can just be so like against mental health awareness. Like, go out there, get that help. It doesn't make you weak. And you may not see results right away, but don't give up. Stick with it. And the first person you meet, as far as a therapist, that person probably won't be the right fit. But again, don't give up. Keep trying, because I've seen tremendous improvement to my mental well-being since starting therapy.
Excellent advice. Yeah. I just recorded a great episode yesterday about this very topic.
Okay.
With Bonnie from Dream Big Wellness. And we're talking about therapy specifically for people with chronic illness, disability, and in her practice with cancer care. And it's so important. It is so important. Every single person with a chronic illness or a disability, I highly recommend having a therapist. I have two. I have my personal therapist and my couples counselor with my wife, Andy. And both are so deeply, incredibly valuable because when our bodies are challenging us constantly, there will be a mental health toll from that for every single one of us. And it's so important to be, talking about that. Yeah. I love what you said, that you needed to have that guidance from a male figure. Absolutely. And that's so important. I think, we are, as men, are socialized to not talk about our feelings, and it's damaging for sure. It is so damaging. And it's so important to have someone that you can be open and honest with and let these things out. And yeah, I mean, it's so interesting talking to you because it's like, yeah, here's all these awesome things that have happened to me. And I got diagnosed with depression and anxiety with a smile on your face, you say it, And it's like, yes, getting these types of diagnoses and then learning to start to manage them, learning to start to dive into them and be open with them, that can absolutely be a positive thing in your life. So I love your attitude. It's just like when we recorded a couple of years ago. You are someone who doesn't settle. You have these massive challenges that you're fighting, and you're just like, I'm going to find the best way through it. And if this first thing doesn't work, I'm going to try something else. And you keep trying, and then you're making progress. I mean, it's in all these different fronts. It's very cool.
Thank you, Jesse. I appreciate you, seriously. And another thing I want to add too about therapy is, personally, like, I'm the person a lot of people come to in my life, like in my 9 to 5. I'm team leader there. So everybody can expect you to have the answers. And it's like, I don't always have the answers. And also in my advocacy, the advocacy work that I do, a lot of people come to me and sometimes things can get overwhelming. So that's another reason why I wanted to go to therapy. Is like, it's tough because a lot of people rely on me. And sometimes I feel like I don't have the right answer to give them. Like, what should I do? Where should I go? And therapy has been beneficial to me to help me realize, like, you don't always have to have the right answer, but you have to realize you have to put yourself first at times. And it's challenging as a man because we want to help, we want to provide, we want to give you the answer. But that doesn't make us any less of a man if we don't always have the answer that somebody is seeking for in us. So, yeah, that's been really beneficial for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the beginning of wisdom is knowing when you don't know, right? There's a quote about that somewhere, which I love and I totally agree with. And you brought up your advocacy, and this is something else I wanted to ask you about. I mean, this is a huge part of your life. And I remember so vividly you saying that if you could choose not to have hidradenitis suppurativa, you would not make that choice because of the richness that being an advocate has brought to your life. And I see you, for those of us watching the video version, I see your hidradenitis suppurativa brotherhood merch that you're wearing that looks really great. So yeah, what's the update on your advocacy?
Yeah, so my advocacy has been doing great, man. First and foremost, the community that I built, the tribe that I built, I love those people. I'm a part of the HS Connect crew. hsconnect.org is one of the most reputable resources anybody can go to if they're looking for anything and everything HS related, to HS friendly products, to resources, to the dermatologist locator finder on our website. It's just, like I said, one of the best pieces of resources HS Warrior can go to. And I'm part of the HS Connect crew that consists of Brinley Brooks, Sydney Carter, Cara, Caitlin Baker, so many beautiful people, so many warriors. That's just strong, tight-knit community. And we're there just to help people, help warriors navigate their life. I was having a conversation with Brinley the other day, is like, we're in the business of making people become the best version of themselves. And like, I want to be able to become the best version of myself if I didn't have the love and support that I received from these people. Like, seriously, I feel like they're my family. Like, just to give you an example, when I was going through surgery, Brinley, she was right there with me every step of the way virtually. I was texting her, calling her, and she told me a couple of days before surgery, make sure you go to your mail room. I sent you something. And she sent me this gigantic care package of just wound care supplies and everything and anything that I needed and didn't even know I would need to get myself through surgery. And just like seeing that and knowing like I didn't have to ask anybody for the things that I needed. It was just there. That was just like, she knows how much I love her, and she'll always have a place in my heart for doing that, because like she didn't have to do that. And that just showed me the level of support that I received from her and many others. So yeah, I just love being part of the HS Connect crew. A lot of great things are happening. We have the new website relaunching soon. It should be out now. The Brotherhood was created by me, Timothy Kufis, who's a medical student who is soon to be a dermatologist, and my boy Parrish. You can follow Parrish on Instagram at HS Open Wounds, and he's another HS warrior. And we created the Brotherhood for a safe space for HS kings, as we like to say, because you're a king, to join and have a safe space to talk about their journey and their experiences of living with HS. Because a lot of the times, like, HS guys, they don't like to speak about these things, as we was talking about earlier. So I saw that there was a huge unmet need for this and wanted to create this. And I'm just so happy that the HS Brotherhood is in fruition. We meet once a month virtually. Our next meeting is an open mic session, and that's scheduled for April 19th, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If anybody is interested in joining the Brotherhood, you can head over to my Instagram page at JoeyTorrey718 and click the registration link that's located in my bio and sign up. And as long as you're a man, come join us and share as little as you want or share as much as you want. I just want the guys to know this is a safe space, and come, because once you're in the room, the connection that we build amongst each other, it's like we've known each other for years. it's just a beautiful thing and a powerful thing. And I can't get enough of like just spreading the word about the brotherhood, because the more we do it, the more I see the guys get more comfortable and looking forward to participating. It's truly a blessing.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, Joey, you were a big part of this show for a whole year, because right after you were on the show at the end of season 2, I took a clip from your episode, and it was part of the opening montage of voices for the entirety of season 3. You were saying there are people out there who do know what you're going through. So thank you for that, because you were a big part of every single episode for all of season 3. And, for anyone out there living with hidradenitis suppurativa, Joey's original episode at the end of season 2 is so fantastic, and it's absolutely worth checking out. Joey, you do such great work for your community. I've been following you for years now and watching everything that you post, and you are so open, and you have such great ability to kind of reach inside and pull things out and share them with the world about what you're going through. Being that way is just so powerful to anyone else going through anything similar. So thank you so much for all the incredible work you do for the HS community. It's a pleasure to get to talk to you again. Thank you so much for coming back on the show and sharing your update with us.
Thank you, Jesse. It's always an honor and a pleasure to speak with you. And I'm a fan of you as well. Like, I'm happy to see that you finally got some answers for yourself and you're in a much healthier spot, and continue to do the fabulous work that you do too, because Major Pain Podcast is one of a kind, and it just propels people just to keep going. Simply put, like, don't wave the white flag, just keep going. And your podcast is a huge contributor to people of like, keep pushing it forward, man.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so kind. I really appreciate that. Colby, welcome back to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to catch up with you. We haven't chatted in almost exactly a year. You were last on the podcast on March 27th, 2024, in an episode called Managing Somatic Symptom Disorder Inside a Multitude of Chronic Illnesses. And you have 11 chronic illnesses and mental health diagnoses, including chronic pain, which was diagnosed as fibromyalgia, PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, asthma, IBS, eczema, PTSD, depression, anxiety, bipolar, ADHD, and somatic symptom disorder. And we were just chatting before starting to record here, and you told me you now have another diagnosis on top of all of this.
Yeah, I have Raynaud's phenomenon. So like I went in because I was like, I think I have frostbite because I've had a blister that didn't go away, and it's been a month now. And I Googled it, and it said it should only last from 3 to 7 days. And this is quite longer than that. So can you check on my foot? And I left my foot out for 5 minutes, like between seeing the nurse and the doctor. My foot turned purple.
Whoa.
Which I was like, yep, that just happens. That's my life now. Yeah. And the doctor goes, okay, so since you're here for urgent care, I can't give you your diagnosis of like put it on paper and have it in your forms now that you have Raynaud's, but that's Raynaud's. So it's not official, but it's official.
Yeah, like your body has it, and the doctor's notes and your chart need to catch up. We've talked about Raynaud's a couple times on the podcast. I know it can often accompany other illnesses. And it sounds like maybe you're sort of at the beginning of your journey with this particular diagnosis. But do you have any idea if it might be attached to any of your other diagnoses or comorbid with any of your diagnoses?
So we've also been looking into if I have POTS or other connective tissue disorders, and I saw my cardiologist for the first time this last week. I think it was like Thursday, so pretty recently. They kind of did like the lay down and stand test, but they didn't tell me not to have electrolytes. But he did tell me that even just my primary care doctor can redo that test at any time. So we'll see.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, it seems like some sort of connective tissue disorder or some sort of underlying thing would make sense in your case because there's so much else going on. But I also know from our email correspondence that, on top of this new diagnosis, there's a lot that has happened to you in the past year. So take us through it. What have you been through?
So I'm fairly certain that I saw you before I had my breast reduction surgery. So I had my surgery. I think I had told you something about like it being like a really euphoric, like really nice and like everything. And then 2 months post, like I was doing all the stuff I'm supposed to, like walk and whatever. And my mom took care of me, and all the fun surgery stuff that I'm sure lots of people know about. It's I don't know. But then 2 months later, 2 months post surgery, it all kind of just like went blank. Like my memory was just like, okay.
You,
Anyway,
your memory went blank?
yeah. I actually have like a really good memory. Like I can even remember like my first memory is legitimately being in a baby carrier, seeing our house for the first time. Like our house, we moved in there when I was 6 months, is what I was told. And
Oh,
like,
wow.
so I remember a lot of things very detailed, but then for those 2 months, it just got all garbled.
Hmm.
It kind of just all got hazy and discombobulated and like was no longer clear.
Hmm.
And it was kind of just like, what is the passage of time now?
Hmm.
It was really, really strange. I was watching Game Grumps and they were talking to a woman who was like, yeah, so after you have a baby, like your brain kind of just like resets and you don't remember all the really shitty, terrible stuff that happened because your brain is trying to rewire you so that way you want to have another baby. And it's
Hmm.
like, oh, like that feels kind of like what happened with my brain is like it just decided, nah.
Interesting. Um,
Yeah.
can you talk us through your decision to get breast reduction surgery?
Okay. That's like a 3 point answer, I think. So part of it is I have chronic pain through all of my back,
Hmm.
and my upper back and like my shoulders and stuff. Especially at that time. I'm also non-binary, and I had tried to get like top surgery to just have them gone,
Hmm.
basically. But then I found out that I think I either found out that my insurance care plan changed or that I had forgotten that I wanted to change my insurance to one that would cover gender affirming surgeries.
Hmm.
I was a triple D also, a 32 triple D, and so like just clothes didn't fit me. I either had to get clothes that would fit my waist, but then like the fabric would stretch, and so you could basically see through my clothes. Or I had to get stuff that would fit over my chest and was much more comfortable to wear, but at the same time, like I have fibromyalgia. If I wear pants, they're sweatpants. Like if I go out, I don't really look dressy at any given time. I look like I'm a slob. There's no way to look nice unless I get everything specially tailored. And sure, my mom is a seamstress, but she didn't sign up for that. She didn't sign up to tailor every shirt that I got. Um, Part of it was to like be comfortable in my body, but also the other part of it was that I sorry, this is difficult.
Yeah, take
So
your time.
I experienced a lot of mm, I I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because I am laughing and giggling and smiling, not because it's funny or happy, but because it's a stress response. Um, I was trafficked as a child, like a infant into young childhood, sexually. And so I couldn't even look in the mirror because also societally you see big breasts and sexy, 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 sexy. Oh, big breasts, sexy, hot, love it. Um, I really struggle to engage with sexy itself being more gray or asexual or demisexual. It's not like I don't have a libido or libida or however, you know, I'm non-binary. Doesn't really it's that I don't have an interest in seeing people or things sexually. And but like society has trained me to like look in the mirror, see big boobs, and think sexy. And I couldn't even look in the mirror because it was traumatic every
Mm.
time. It was, I hate this. I hate I hate knowing that people look at me and they see sexy. I hate sexy. I hate being sexy. I hate feeling sexy. I don't want to look sexy. Like, I don't have a problem with other people wanting to be or feel sexy. But the minute that, like, it's a word that's attached to me, it's a problem. And so I couldn't even look in the mirror. I couldn't take like a lot of photos of myself. I didn't want to be in photos. I was just really uncomfortable. And part of like not wanting to be in photos, not only was it like I don't want to be seen as sexy, part of it was also I couldn't dress in a way that was either appropriate or not dolled up or fancy, but like non-casual. There's so much frustration there of just like, I can't look in the mirror. I don't want to take photos of myself. I don't want to think about me as a person. I'm disjointed from my body because I can't be me. I don't want to be me. I'm already triggered and dealing with trauma like in counseling and trying to like work through like, hey, people sexualized an infant, and that's the world we live in. Not like everyone does that, but like there are people who do that. That was hard enough. And then to be like, now I'm also the one objectifying myself. And if I see myself this way, everyone else must see me this way, which obviously isn't true for everyone, but societally, like, true. Um, so I couldn't look in the mirror. I couldn't like go and brush my teeth. 'Cause you have to brush your teeth at the sink. I mean, I guess I could have had the kitchen sink instead, but my brain won't let me do that. Or I could have gone into the shower, but also my brain won't let me do that. It's bathroom sink only. That's where the giant mirror is. So before my surgery, I was only brushing my teeth like 1 to 3 times every like 3 or so months. And then it would be like 2 to 5 times the week prior to seeing the dentist. And now, a year and some change after having my breast reduction surgery, I brush my teeth like 4 times a week consistently. And sometimes I even get in twice a day. And I like, yeah, I have scars and they're there, but I just I look down and it's not like, oh God, like this is terrible.
Yeah, so there's all these reasons. You have the chronic pain, you have this history of trauma
Yeah.
and sexualization that you want to break the cycle of. And here is this option, elective surgery that is an action that you can take to change all of these things at once. So once you've had the surgery, how did you feel after it was done and after you've healed?
So I remember going into my surgery and being like, hey guys, I have terrible, terrible pain. I have chronic pain. And it's like, now that I've gone through even more therapy, I'm like, okay, so before I ever took meds for my pain, it was probably a 14 out of 10, like on the pain scale, like 14 out of 10 without meds. Now that I have like my regular meds, my pain is probably down to like 9 out of 10. 9 uh on the pain scale of to 10, where 10 is the worst. And post surgery, I had no pain.
Wow.
Granted, they had me on opioids, like
Sure.
not just like tramadol. Like I still have the medication bottle. I can't remember what it is. I think it's oxycodone or oxycodone. I don't remember how it's pronounced, and I don't really care because I'm not going to use it. I'm just waiting until I can properly dispose of it. But I had no pain.
Wow.
And I had tried to talk to the nurses and the anesthesiologist and be like, hey, if I feel no pain, it's going to be a problem for me after the surgery. It's going to be a huge problem for me after the surgery. This is strange, guys, but I would like to be in pain, please. Like, if you want to give me those heavy hitters, think again, please. Please don't. They didn't take that advice. Obviously, they want me to have a comfortable, normal surgery like any other person.
But is your concern that if you have opioids, if you through artificial means are feeling no pain, when the pain returns, when that wears off, it would be harder to manage? Is that your concern?
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's part of why those 2 months, especially those 2 months, because the 6 months following surgery entirely are still quite a bit blurry, and part of that is because I had broken up with my boyfriend and was still living with him for a time.
That's tough.
Yeah, it was difficult, but we managed and we're still friends. So like that's good. I like keeping friendships. I like people. I love people.
So yeah, I mean, it sounds like just one thing on top of another here. You're going through so many things
Yeah.
at once. So your pain is gone. You're on medication post surgery. As you start to recover, and we know this is leading up 2 months later to a point where your memory gets really foggy. But in those 2 months after the surgery, when the pain meds wear off, did your pain level, your sort of ambient, constant pain level, return?
Oh, yeah, as soon as I would say weaned myself off of oxycodone codeine, but I'm a little irresponsible lunatic, and I was like, they said to stop after a week, so no more after a week.
You just went cold turkey.
I went cold turkey.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Don't do that. It's so bad. Like, don't do that. Going cold turkey on things can kill you. Don't do it. Um, so if I wasn't high, essentially high, from the oxycodone or from my regular meds, which can give me kind of a high of like not feeling like myself. And so I was still like incredibly wonky behavior for the following at least 3 months, maybe 4 months. And then I started to like kind of also question like who I was. But
Wow.
yeah, so like but directly after my surgery, I remember just like looking down and just being so happy. I couldn't stop smiling. I was just like "Mm,
Wow.
those are mine. Like I've got a body I like."
After what you've been through, to have that moment, that's got to be so powerful.
Yeah, even my counselor was like, in the last month following your surgery, like, I've seen incredible progress
Mm,
that we'd been working months on of like the sexual trauma. And like,
mm.
I no longer like look in the mirror and I'm like, oh, terrible. Like, even when I was looking in the mirror to put on scar gel tape, like looking at my breasts, I was like, at no moment was I like, this is awful. I hate this. This is awful. Whatever. Like, oh, everything's all wrong. Like, I was just like, hee hee hee, just a little. I
Oh,
just gonna
God.
put some stickers over my body. I just gonna put stickers on myself. Like a child, like I'm 5 years old and I'm putting those temporary tattoos of Pokemon all over my body again.
You're just
Like,
celebrating your body for maybe the first time ever.
yeah, probably the first time ever, actually, honestly.
Wow.
I just it was such a like it was such a good time. Like, even all bandaged, I was like, look at me. I My friends were like, "Hey, you've been logging in every day, but you said you're not going to be on this weekend. Like, what's going on?" And I was like, "I'm getting my titties removed." And someone messaged me back, like in my DMs, and they were like, are you for real?" And I was like, "Yeah, I won't be on this weekend." And they were like, "Okay." Um,
Oh my God. What has this done for your gender dysphoria?
um, I think my initial like coming out of surgery was like absolute like gender euphoria.
Hmm.
I may not have it like all the time anymore, but like I can be whatever. Like, this is flexible. Like,
Mm.
I'm flexible. And so I can work with this. My surgeon was like, we were worried that we weren't going to be able to get enough tissue for your insurance to be happy because regardless of size, they need a pound worth of tissue to take off.
Ugh.
And I, yeah,
Yeah, and you said insurance would only okay it as a breast reduction, not as gender affirming care. So, and you went from did you say 32 triple D?
yeah.
And can I ask where you are now?
I'm about an A or a double A. I don't know which one is smaller. And my bust line is between 30 and 32.
And
Or,
it,
well, actually, sorry, between 28 and 32, kind of depending on how I breathe.
and if you'd had the option with your insurance, would you have just done a pure gender affirming care and removed them entirely? Is the size that you ended up with basically dictated by what insurance was willing to do?
Yeah, yeah. Insurance wouldn't cover it as a gender affirming surgery. So I had to have a feminine breast. I couldn't have a flat breast.
I I'm so disturbed that your insurance company is making these calls for you like that. I'm so happy that you got anything close to what you needed here, you know? But
Yeah.
I'm so disturbed by the idea of an insurance company saying like these breasts need to be feminine. Like
Yeah.
that's utterly bizarre. Like it is
Yeah.
utterly bizarre that the insurance company, instead of the human being whose body it is, gets to make that final determination. And yet I'm also so happy that you got anything covered by insurance so that you could do this at all, because it's obviously something that was very important and a wonderful, joyful thing. So
Yeah.
what? Yeah, very complicated, but I'm deeply. I've never heard anything like that before. I've never, talked to someone about the details about a surgery like this before, and where these lines are between what the insurance company will allow and what you want. That's what are we doing in our society when the insurance is like, I need this many pounds and it has to be feminine. I mean, what is the deal there? Like I don't know. I mean, there must be a better way a more human-centered way for the human being whose body it is to make this choice.
Right. Yeah, you would think that me, the patient, my therapist, the gender therapist that I also saw, and my surgeon would, and also my doctor, all agreeing like, hey, from every aspect and every angle, sick. Surgery, just removing them, getting rid of them as much as possible, because there is a very large formula of terror
Yeah.
um that I endured
Yeah.
of just
No
being
kidding.
busty. Um
Yeah, and just the way that that ties into your particular trauma, that is something that was done to you, something you know, that you have to spend a lifetime dealing with the after effects of this treatment that is so, I mean, I don't even have so abhorrent. I don't even have the words for it, you know? And I also have to thank you for sharing that with us, because that is such a personal trauma. Um, Whatever you need to do, you know, whatever you feel is right for you to find the best way through that. Why aren't we supporting that and just letting you do it, you know? And like you said, with the support of your therapist, you know, like, let's come to decisions for the person. Like, and you did, to a degree, you know, you did get to do it to a degree, which is again, thank you, insurance company, but also insurance company, why are you dictating what happens in the end? This is my brain is spinning. I mean, again, 5 years in, never heard a story like this on this podcast. But there's also something in here that I relate to, like, so much, because yeah, and it's from a completely different set of circumstances.
Okay.
But when I was right before I turned 30, I had testicular cancer, and I had to have surgery and have a testicle removed. And that wasn't my choice, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose it's my choice. I could have cancer and do nothing about it, but,
Right.
you know, and actually I didn't know for sure I had cancer until after the surgery, because they can't biopsy because that would spread the cancer. So the only the only real option was to do surgery and remove it. It was cancer. I had 2 separate tumors right next to each other in a little tiny spot on one of my testicles.
Well,
yeah,
that's
and
great.
I didn't have to do any radiation or anything like that because I caught it so fast. But after that, I just felt wrong in my body, you know? Like, this thing happened to my body where I just felt off and wrong. And that feeling is so hard, you know, to live in that feeling. So I made the choice, I'm going to change my body. I'm going to do something that I choose. This thing happened to me that I didn't choose. I'm going to do something that I do choose. And I got a tattoo. And it's right, it's right here. It says 30 in Klingon, because I'm a Star Trek nerd. And it also, like, I don't know.
I bonded over Star Trek last time,
yes,
too.
Of course, absolutely. So I wanted to not just take this moment to make a change to my body that I chose, but I also wanted to kind of inject a little bit of that Klingon warrior spirit, like, right on my veins, right here, you know? This is the in canon ancient Klingon, you know?
Okay, yeah.
But I just really liked the way it looked, and it says 30 in Klingon. I got it on my 30th birthday, and it just completely changed how I felt about having cancer, because I felt like I was taking back my own power over my own body after this thing that had happened that had changed my body in a way I didn't want. And that's what I've been thinking about when you're telling this story, is like, that's my way into this story, as far as to understand what it could feel like to want to make a change to your body like that, and to have it feel euphoric after, you know? And I just think that that's beautiful, and something that you deserve after everything that you've been through. Now that we're like a year out from this surgery, now that we can reflect on it, what ended up happening with your memory as far as things being hazy? And how do you feel about this surgery a year out, now that things are healed and you've had some time with this new body?
I'm a lot more cognizant, coherent, here, present. I'm a lot more existing now. And now I'm like, all right, I am with it. That was embarrassing behavior, but it was also very freeing behavior of, I can be silly. I always knew I could be silly. I've always known I can be silly. I always have been silly, but it's also like, yeah, and no one cares if I'm silly. So now I'm silly by choice, not just because post-surgery. So like I would say October was when I like started to realize I'm probably coming back into like reality of like not feeling high because of like I have to get used to being in pain again.
Mm.
I have to get used to being in pain again. They have medication that can make me feel like I'm in no pain. I'm in so much fucking pain. I'm in so much pain. Normal people most people will never experience this amount of pain. And this is the amount of pain I have when I'm on medication to manage my pain. Like, not even like post-surgery medication, like the difference is so stark.
Mm.
If it weren't for the fact that I had had my breasts reduced and I was more comfortable in my body, I don't know what would have happened, but I know that even with the breast reduction, coming back into pain, knowing that I could experience no pain, essentially euphoria. I could experience no pain. And people lived with no pain. People live with no pain. And I was like super jaded and like there was a lot of bouncing back and forth between like I hate everything and I want to die and I'm suicidal and having lots of suicide ideation, which to be completely honest, I deal with suicide ideation a great deal, and now that I'm medicated, it doesn't stick so much. But post-surgery suicide ideation was like I don't know, gorilla glued onto my brain. And if it weren't for the fact that I was okay living in this body, I don't know that I would have come out as unscathed as I have.
Yeah. Wow.
And in a soft way to put it.
Yeah. I hear you though. And that's a really powerful message. And
Yeah.
really really drives home this idea that people need to have autonomy over their own bodies. Wow.
Yeah.
Colby, this has just been incredible. I mean, what a journey you've been on this last year. And we have this whole other piece of your journey from the first time you were on the podcast. And it's obvious today that what we learned last time is a small piece, that there's so much more that you have been through. And you are a fighter. And I mean, the fact that you've been through everything that you've been through and you're still here and you're still smiling and learning your own silliness and kind of coming into that now. And that's amazing. Amazing. And I'm so blown away by your openness today and your willingness to just go this deep on giving us as the audience of Major Pain this piece of your journey, which is such a gift. So thank you so much for coming back on the show and for updating us on your story.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This isn't to negate what you said because I think that me being a fighter is probably honest too. But post-surgery, like I think a lot of what keeps me alive is also just being a lover.
Mm.
Of just being in love with myself and the world and everything that goes on around and that I can heal and that things can change.
I love that. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Angela, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to catch up with you and see how you've been. Okay, you were first on Major Pain July 26th, 2023, so almost 2 years ago, in an episode called Surviving Multiple Chronic Illnesses, Surgeries, a Coma, and Being Pronounced Dead. Angela B. Brown feels blessed to be alive.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you have such an amazing story. We talked through all of your diagnoses. You were born with 3 holes in your heart that required multiple open heart surgeries. Your diseases include kidney disease called IgA nephropathy, lung disease called tracheomalacia, diabetes, and asthma. Your doctor warned you that getting COVID would be extremely dangerous to you. And when you got COVID, you went into a 10-day coma, and your doctor assumed that you were dead without even checking and put it in your chart that you were dead. And then when you woke up from your coma, you had to convince the nurse that you were who you said you were and that you were still alive. A really amazing story. I'm so glad that you're back on the show, and I'm so excited to hear how you've been. So, in the last couple of years, what are your updates? What has happened?
So, in late December of 2022, I believe, I was having some problems breathing. Like my breathing was not up to par. In January of 2024, I passed out on my way to the doctors because I was feeling really poorly. My brother-in-law had previously just died a couple of weeks before that, so I was trying to keep up my spirits and and not let anyone know that I wasn't well.
Oh, so sorry to hear that.
I just sort of kept that to myself.
Yeah.
And so I was having like chest pains on the right side, and I was having difficulty breathing. When I went to the hospital to visit him and I put the mask on, I was like hyperventilating. I felt like I just could not breathe. I couldn't even walk properly, but I just pushed it through. I said, no, I'm not going to give my family anything else to worry about. They have enough to worry about with my brother-in-law being sick and terminally ill. We knew he was going to die soon. Anyway, so he passed away, and we had a funeral for him in January of 2024. My family was just a mess. So then I decided to tell my daughter, I said, I'm not really feeling well. I'm having a little bit of chest pain, and I can't breathe properly. Could you come with me to the doctor's office? So we went to the doctor's office. It was raining. She parked the car. We were walking in the parking lot. I was trying to get to the front door. She was already walking ahead of me. And literally, I couldn't move. I literally stopped in the middle of the parking lot. Cars coming around. The rain is pouring. And she's just looking at me like, what are you doing? And then I finally got the strength to walk onto the sidewalk. And I said to her, I can't go any further. And she was like, what do you mean you can't go any further? I said, I cannot move. My legs won't move. I just can't even, I can barely breathe. And I walked into the lobby and boom, out. I passed out.
Oh my God. At least you're at the hospital already. I mean, you're at the right place.
Yeah, I was at the doctor. It was the doctor's office, but they called 911. I woke up. They started asking me a whole lot of questions, and they took me to the hospital. And after doing some tests, the doctor told me that my lungs was congested. So I said, okay, nothing too serious. Get you some antibiotics, and you should be fine. He gave me antibiotics. Took the antibiotics, didn't work. Went back to the doctor. I said, okay, antibiotics didn't work. Okay, give me stronger ones. Felt a little bit better, but antibiotics still wasn't working. And they said, okay, maybe we need to do some more tests. They told me to go see my cardiologist. I saw the cardiologist. She said, did more tests. And she said, I'm sure you're familiar with that. And she said, the blood pressure, the pressure in your lungs is a little bit high. No, nothing to worry about or anything. But I'm going to send you to a lung specialist. Okay, I already had a lung specialist, but she sent me to a different lung specialist. Waited about 2 months for the appointment. Went to the lung specialist. He looked at me and he said, I don't know why you're here. I told him and he said, I don't deal with that. I'm like, what? He said, I only deal with people who have problems with sleep apnea. I said, well, I do have sleep apnea, but I already have a machine. Right? He goes, well, then there's nothing I can do for you. He goes, but I'm going to recommend you to a different specialist that I know that could help you. And then wait another couple of months for that appointment. And then I went to see him and he looked over all my tests and he said, well, I think you have something called pulmonary hypertension, but I need to do more tests to confirm it. Did some more tests. He said, come back within a month. Went back a month. And he said, well, the test looks positive for pulmonary hypertension, but I have to do one more test. I have to do a right heart catheterization, he said. And what is that? Basically, they go in like your groin They make a hole, a cut in your groin. They insert the tubes up into your heart.
Wow.
And then it allows them to see inside of the heart and the lungs and see what's happening. Once he gets that result, then he'll know if I have that or not. He wasn't the one that was going to perform the procedures. So that time it was like around Christmas time. So I just have to wait till the new year. So waited till the new year, and then I went to the hospital, had the test done. So I woke up and I said, "So what results?" She goes, "Oh, I have to discuss it with your lung specialist, the one who recommended you to me. We have to discuss it and blah blah blah, and then we'll let you know." By this time, I was frustrated. It had been a year. Yeah, we were coming to January 2024, and this had started in 2023.
Yeah.
2023 when I passed out. And now, a year later, you still don't have an answer. I'm still getting the run around, like from one doctor to the other doctor to the other doctor. And they kept telling me that the pressure in my lungs is high, but it's not serious. So I was going by that, right? The family doctor calls my daughter, which never ever happens, and starts telling her to tell me not to worry. I don't have congested heart failure. It's not as serious as that, but it is serious, and they're going to do some more tests, and then they're going to figure it out. And so I kind of got annoyed at the doctor, and I said, like, we've been doing tests and tests. We've been repeating some of the tests. Like, you've been repeating the same tests over and over again. Then he explained to me, he said, "Oh, well, this disease, the medication is very expensive. It goes into the thousands. And in order to get you covered for it, even though I know that you have pulmonary hypertension, I have to prove it to the government, basically, that this is what you have.
Yeah.
So your medication can be covered." I'm like, okay. And then finally, in April of 2024, he said, "Okay, I can confirm you have pulmonary hypertension." And then he explained that it was like having high blood pressure in the arteries of your lungs and your heart. The right side of my heart was enlarged because the blood wasn't pumping properly to the heart. When you have pulmonary hypertension and it's not treated, you're forcing your heart to work harder to breathe, for you to breathe. And so that's why you're having the pain in your chest on the right side and not on the left. And that's why you're having so much problems to breathing and stuff like that. So he said he's going to put me on medication. And I said, okay. He goes, "But I can't give you the medication." Why? "Oh, there's a clinic, a pulmonary hypertension clinic at a hospital in Toronto. And once they confirm as high as possible that's what you have, they send you to that clinic, and that clinic will give you the medication." So, okay, I waited probably a month to get an appointment to that clinic. I went, saw the doctor. He wanted me to see a cardiologist at the hospital before he prescribed the medication. So I had to wait for that. Went and saw the cardiologist, and then went back to him. And then finally he gave me the medication. And he said, "This is just the first one. Usually it's more than one medication." So he gave me the medication, told me to come back in 6 weeks to see if the medication was working. And then they said, "Okay, it seems like it's working. We're going to add another medication." And oh my gosh, between the two medications, I think you're tired. I was feeling dizzy, lightheaded. I had to weigh myself every day. Every morning when I wake up, after I've got my first urine, I have to weigh myself.
Every day?
And that every day. Wake up, go to the bathroom, pee, weigh yourself.
Interesting.
And then I had to check my blood pressure every day. I can only drink 1.5 liters of liquid per day. So I said, "Oh, I can only drink 1.5 liters of water." I kept saying water. And he's like, "No, liquid." meaning any liquid, meaning milk, meaning juice, meaning like whatever it is you have, it can only be no more than 1.5 liters per day. So I found this bottle here, and I measured it. It holds 1,500 milliliters, which means 3 of this bottle per day of any liquid.
Yeah. When Andy had her brain surgery, she had to go on a liquid restriction, and it's hard,
Wow. It's very hard.
Because you don't really think through everything that you're consuming. Is this a liquid or a solid? You have to start to do all these calculations. It's a lot more difficult than you'd think it would be. Yeah.
And no sodium.
Wow.
Which was like, I was like, what? Like the first time when he said no sodium, and I went away thinking, okay, that's fine, no sodium. But when I started looking at the food labels, everything had sodium. It was impossible to have no sodium. So when I went back, I said, it's impossible to have no sodium because everything has sodium. Right? And he goes, well, it's low sodium. So as low as you possibly can, that's what you have to do. So, of course, food tastes bland without sodium. So my daughter, she decided she would go on the low sodium diet with me, but she did not last. So
that's brave of her.
So basically, we had to cook 2 separate meals.
Yeah.
She's just like, Mom, sorry, I can't do it. And it's hard when you go out to eat. Like I don't go out very often to eat like restaurants and stuff like that because trying to find something on the menu that has no sodium. Everything has sodium.
Right.
Like if I ordered a steak, I'm like, can you make a steak that you haven't pre-seasoned, please? And that's what you need to cook for me. And just put black pepper and a little bit of other spice, but no sodium. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I went to Jamaica I went to Jamaica in February. My niece was getting married. She wanted a destination wedding. I almost didn't eat. Like there was nothing to eat without soda except eggs.
Yeah.
Pretty much eggs was it. And I eat egg, but and I don't eat the yolk. I only eat the white. So and my diet is very complicated because it's low sodium, low potassium, no sugar. Right? When people are just looking at me like, what?
So it sounds like the new diet is really restrictive, and then you're on these medications that are making you dizzy and tired. Did that ever resolve at all? Have you adapted to the medication?
I've adapted to the medication. I still do have sometimes dizziness, like I just had it like just a couple hours ago. Sometimes dizziness, sometimes lightheadedness, but it's not as bad as it was before. I saw the doctor in December. He said, okay, you don't have to come back every 6 weeks anymore. You can come every 6 months because you're doing so well. He goes, and we want to add the other medication until we see what happens when you come back. And I was like, what other medication? It's like, oh, well, when you have pulmonary hypertension, people are usually on 3 or 4 different medications.
Wow.
It's just like, I can't take anymore. I'm already on enough medication for my other chronic illnesses, right? And then to be put on 3 medication for 1 illness. Anyways, he says, well, this medication causes diarrhea. And he calls it like severe diarrhea. I'm like, great. So thank goodness, at least I went to Jamaica before. I have to go on that medication. Hopefully not, fingers crossed. But yeah, it's like a roller coaster.
Yeah, totally. While we're talking, I just pulled this up, some info about pulmonary hypertension, which says it is a serious condition, like you said, characterized by high blood pressure in the arteries of the lungs, which can make it difficult for blood to flow and reduce oxygen levels in the body. Symptoms often include shortness of breath, chest pain, fatigue, and swelling in the legs or abdomen, and it could lead to severe complications if not treated. So we got to be grateful that we found it and it's being treated, but that's so frustrating that it took a year and a half of the medical system kind of spinning its wheels while you are living with this disease that can lead to serious complications if we don't treat it.
Yeah.
And then on top of the symptoms that it causes, and obviously you had like passed out, so you were having symptoms from this.
Mm-hmm.
One of the symptoms is fatigue, and then the medication itself, it sounds like, causes fatigue. And you like you just said, you have all these other medications from your other chronic illnesses.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You were already living inside of this really complex puzzle. And I, from talking to you last time, it's one of the more complex puzzles that we've had on the show. And now there's another thing on top of that is another complex, hard to treat disease that requires multiple medications. And it sounds like there's a period of your body adapting to each medication. There's a new diet that you have to be on. This is a lot. This sounds really overwhelming. How do you feel about adding in another thing on top of everything else?
Like I know that I'm a Christian, right? So I know the Bible said, "Don't ask why me," but I had to look at the God and say, "Why me?" Like, isn't 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 enough? Like, do I need more?
Yeah.
And I asked the doctor. I said, how did I get pulmonary hypertension? Because I've had lung problems before.
Mm-hmm.
They diagnosed me with tracheomalacia in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
I said, couldn't you guys have found this in 2019 when you diagnosed me with well, it was a different doctor, but he said that apparently there's I think it's 5 different levels of pulmonary hypertension. And I have symptoms of level 1, 2, and 3. And my pulmonary hypertension is severe.
Wow.
So it can be mild to severe. Usually by the time they figure it out, you're in the severe category because it's so rare and doctors don't know about it. Apparently only 5,000 people in Canada have pulmonary hypertension. Now we're talking the whole of Canada. There's only 5,000 people.
Wow.
Right? Because some doctors don't know about it. So they're not diagnosed. So they're like, they don't think that really there's only 5,000. It's just only 5,000 that have been diagnosed.
Yeah. And there's probably a lot of other people living with it that don't know they have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he said, because I was born with 3 holes in my heart. So I had congenital heart disease. And usually like right now with medical technology, they would operate on you as a baby, like within a couple of months of being born. Before your first birthday, or now they have where they can operate on you even during the uterus or something. So because I didn't have surgery until 8 years old, right? This created the problem. It was there, but nobody knew about it, but it was already there because of the fact that I didn't have surgery until I was 8 years old. Whereas now they're doing surgery much, much earlier. So I'm at least lucky that I'm taking the pills, the medication or pills, because they have some medication that they put like something in your heart, a tube in your heart, and then it goes into an IV, and then you get it through an IV, or they have it, some come in a powder form, and you have to mix it yourself. The year that I waited for them to diagnose this, even though I'd heard them mention it a few times, I started reading everything I was trying to read on pulmonary hypertension. I said, okay, I heard this a couple of times, so this is probably what it's going to be. And then I kept just reading this thing. My daughter was getting upset at me because I kept telling her stuff, and she said, "Mom, stop reading Google."
Have you noticed any improvement in your symptoms? I mean, it sounds like, pulmonary hypertension is going to limit the amount of oxygenation that you're getting in your body, the slowing the blood flow or obstructing the blood flow and the oxygen reaching your whole body. So now that you're on medication, have you noticed a difference?
I do, because before I couldn't walk very far. Like I literally walk a few steps and I'd be tired. And I'd be
out of breath. Yeah.
And today I went for a walk with my daughter, and we walked around the complex, and I was fine. I didn't have any breathing problems. So I said, "Oh, why don't we go around again?" And she looked at me. She goes, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, let's go around again." And she's like, "Okay." And then we went around again, and then we came in, and I still wasn't having any breathing problems. And she said, "Oh, I said, I probably could have gone around 3 times, but I was hungry." because I hadn't had breakfast yet. So, so that's a
Wow.
big difference. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And
so cool.
one of the tests that they give you to check if there's any improvement is a walking test. So it's a 6 minutes walking test, and basically you just walk up and down the aisle for 6 minutes. They have all these things hooked up to you, obviously, and there's somebody there watching you to make sure you don't pass out or anything like that, right? So hook you up to the monitor, and she watches you while you just keep walking back and forth for 6 minutes, and then it tests to see did you do better this time than you did previous 6 months, 6 weeks before that, or 6 weeks before that. The first 2 times there was no improvement. He's like, oh, we're a little disappointed. There's no improvement, but let's just wait because it had only been like 12 weeks or something like that. So after the third 6 weeks visit, they said, wow, you were walking so fast. You did so much better than you did the other times that you did this test. And that's when they said, you know what, we're so proud of the result. And then I did some breathing tests, other breathing tests, and they said, oh, we were so impressed by your results and everything that now we'll see you every 6 months.
Amazing. Wow, that's so cool. This sounds like a very complicated thing to go through where it's like you have that why me moment when this other illness is layered on top. But then once you start to integrate it into your routine, you start to see some improvement because you have the disease. You know, whether or not you want the disease, you have the disease. The only thing you can do is try to treat it. And then once you're treating it, when you start to see some improvement, then it almost changes to this sense of gratitude for having found it and gotten the medication that you need. And yeah, and you mentioned being a woman of faith and having this why God feeling. And now that you're sort of integrating this disease into your life, has that shifted?
The why God feeling?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Bible says God doesn't give you more than you can bear. So I guess he feels like I'm strong enough to bear all these things because you know, I try not to compare people, but I know there are people who have, and I've had, my sister says, I only have IBS, and I'm saying, you know, why me? And and you have because I can't even count anymore, like what you have, you know. So I was having chest pains a few weeks ago, and the paramedics came, and when they asked me what medication I was on, my daughter took out. I said, my daughter, oh, it's on my dresser, and she took out a sheet of paper, and it was like this, like an 8.5 inches, and it was like this. And then I said, oh, you have to turn it over. And then they turn it over, and then there was like a hole, and they're like, oh my gosh. And, you know, they were like, okay, let's go to the hospital. They're like, we're just not taking any chances with you. Luckily, I wasn't having a heart attack or anything. Oh, and the best news was I went to see the cardiologist last month, and she said the right side of my heart has gone down. Like, remember the right side?
Oh, the swelling. Yeah.
Yeah. The right side is enlarged. It's not fully back to its normal size, but it went down a little bit. And they had told me that it probably wouldn't go down at all. Like the medication probably wouldn't shrink it. It would probably just stay enlarged. But it's actually, and my daughter's like, well, Mom, you did the impossible. Because they didn't think that it was possible. And now they're telling you that it actually happened. So
wow. Yeah, that's so cool.
So now it's like, thank you, God. Like, you know, it's not why me anymore, because it's just something I have to deal with.
Yeah. So, well, you obviously can bear a lot. I mean, you are obviously a very strong person, and it's all of this internal battle that just meeting you and looking at you, no one would be able to know that you've been through. And that's why I really appreciate you sharing all this with us and returning to the show to share this yet another challenge that you've had to surmount, another obstacle that you've had to climb over. And then here you are making improvement, walking around the block an extra time. And it's just a really great lesson of, you know, things aren't always what they seem. Getting a new diagnosis feels overwhelming, and sometimes it can feel like your world is ending. But then once you integrate it, you never know what the future might hold, and you never know how your body's going to react to the medication. And sometimes these things can lead to improvements that you wouldn't expect. And again, chronic illness, health, life, none of this is linear. And this is a really good reminder of that.
Right. And I think you already know this, but when you're going through it and you haven't gotten a diagnosis yet, you're praying for a diagnosis. I hope this time I get a diagnosis. And you go again and you're praying for that diagnosis, right? Because you're going through this. And that when you finally get the diagnosis, you're, okay, finally I can, celebrate I got a diagnosis, but then, oh, wait a minute. When they start telling you all the things that's going to go along with this diagnosis, you're like, oh, okay. Like, every patient has a nurse, might be the same nurse. And when you check your weight, if your weight has increased more than 3 pounds in the 24-hour period, then you have to call your nurse and let them know. Or if there's any swelling in your legs, or if your blood pressure is increased, like anything like that. So it's not just testing that, doing that for the sake of it. You have to taste it, write it down, compare it, and let them know if it goes over 3 pounds of weight gain, because that means your body's retaining water, and then that means the pill's medication's not working.
I see.
So it's time to give you a new medication.
Okay.
To see if that will work. Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And sometimes they have to go through as invasive as giving you the tubes that hook up to an IV that gives you the medication, or some other form of medication. That's, the pill is the starting point, but if it doesn't work, then they have to go with other more severe
okay
measures.
So basically, who knows what the future holds, but
exactly.
At least for now, the medication is working.
It could even lead to a lung and heart transplant.
Really? Wow. And if you hadn't caught it, who knows what would have happened.
Right. Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Angela, thank you so much for coming back on the show and updating us, teaching us about a disease that we have not covered, pulmonary hypertension. One more disease going on my spreadsheet of diseases that we've covered, and you've brought several new ones to the show. So thank you for that. And I wish you all the best in your journey with this new diagnosis, integrating it into your life. And I'll just say again, you are such a warrior, facing so many things in your life with such grace and with such strength. This invisible illness and the invisible strength it takes to overcome the invisible illness. But those of us listening on this podcast or watching this episode, we see your strength. And I just want to say that it's really admirable. Thanks.
I want to say that I'm so appreciative for your show, for your podcast.
Thank you.
Because you have you're bringing awareness to chronic illnesses, to bringing not just the ones that are the invisible side of it, but you're also bringing awareness to the new chronic illnesses that are out there that people don't know about, or just about, what it's like to have chronic illness. And we're being seen now. We're being seen and we've been heard. And that's due to your podcast. So I thank you so much for that.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so kind of you. I really appreciate it.
And it's nice talking to somebody who understands and knows what it's going through it, because you have, of course, your own.
Yes, definitely. Well,
to deal with it.
It's just such a joy for me.
So
this is the start of the 5th year of the show, and I just love talking to every single person who comes on the show. I love building community around these challenges that I think are so hard, but also bring so much good to your life in ways that you wouldn't expect.
Exactly.
And one of the best things that's brought to my life is the conversations that I have on this podcast. So thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Angela.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Major Pain. I'm Jesse Mercury, the creator of this podcast, with support from Trisha Schmidt and Casey McKenzie. Artwork by Egg Salad Salad. Our theme music is the song Time Machine from my synth-pop album Sci-Fi, now streaming everywhere. Join our community on social media, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, all at Major Pain Podcast. If you have questions or comments you'd like to share with myself, our guests, or our listeners, send an email to majorpainpodcast@gmail.com. You can also head to our website to learn more about this show, support its creation, or leave a comment on any episode at majorpainpodcast.com. Major Pain is supported by our listeners on Patreon. Thank you to our $2 per month supporters, our $7 per month patrons Naomi Adele Smith, Sonny Roberts, Kelsey Matson, Alexandria Henderson, Justin Minnick, Heather Muncie, and Robert, and our $25 per month producers Steve Kavanaugh, Chris Fowler, Trish O'Brien, and Hipster Leia. Learn how you can support this podcast while receiving special recognition on the show, gifts, and monthly bonus episodes at patreon.com/majorpainpodcasts.